The 2024 World Series gets underway tonight with the New York Yankees and Los Angeles Dodgers facing off in what will likely be one of the most exciting World Series in a very long time. This is a heavyweight fight through and through, on par with Frazier versus Ali. I mean, it's New York versus LA, the city that never sleeps versus the city of angels, Wall Street versus Hollywood, pizza versus whatever food LA is known for. Maybe avocado toast? It's not just the markets either. Some of the biggest names in the entire league play for these two teams. We're talking about Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani, Juan Soto and Mookie Betts, Garrett Cole and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Could the stakes be any higher? The answer is no. While some fans might complain that two of baseball's three highest spending teams make for a boring series, just know that these people are both wrong and likely Mets fans. This is Major League Baseball's dream matchup and will probably produce ratings that haven't been seen in years, both domestically but also internationally. So rather than breaking down team valuations or analyzing the velocity of Aaron Judge's swing, I'm going to take a look at some of the most unique and important things that we should all be paying attention to during this year's World Series. First up, let's talk TV ratings. You might think of ratings as a seemingly random number that has allowed shows like Grey's Anatomy to go on for 47 seasons, but they're actually very important when it comes to media rights negotiations. For example, ahead of this year's World Series, many industry experts have estimated that viewership is going to come in around 10 to 15 million for this matchup. But I think that might be underselling it quite a bit, especially if the series goes the full 7 games. In fact, I'd go as far to say that we could see an average viewership of 20 million plus. For some context, the highest rated news show on TV this year was Matlock, which brought in an average of 7.7 million viewers. Over 20 million eyeballs per game would be an astronomical increase considering last year's World Series set a record for the lowest viewership with an average of 9 million. So why am I so confident that this matchup will see a huge increase in ratings? Well, just look at how much it's improved leading up to the World Series. Not only has Major League Baseball seen strong viewership throughout the first few rounds, with an increase of 5% over last year, but these two teams have both the biggest media markets and the league's two most recognizable stars in Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani. New York and LA represent nearly 11% of the entire US TV market alone. And then you can also add in fans that are watching in Japan, which averaged 12.9 million viewers for Game 5 of the NLDS between the Dodgers and Padres. Almost 5 million more viewers than the average number of Americans watching the same game here in the United States. In case you didn't think that was a big number, 12.9 million viewers in Japan means that 10% of the entire country was watching a game that started at 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning. Next up, let's talk about ads. You know the reason people keep singing at BK, have it your way, as you brush your teeth at night? If Major League Baseball is happy about this year's World Series matchup, I can guarantee you the people at Fox Sports are even happier. Fox has already said that they sold out of fixed positions for the first 2 games of the series, meaning no additional ad slots will be available unless there's more pitching changes than usual or the game goes into extra innings. Both very possible given both the teams and the stakes. But as of right now, Fox is charging brands somewhere between $450,000 and $500,000 for a 30-second spot during the first 5 games of the series. While that might be a much smaller number than the $7 million ad rate for a Super Bowl, it's a lot higher than other World Series in recent memory. This will result in hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue for the network, and it could be the most profitable World Series that we've seen in more than a decade, with a chance to top the 2016 matchup that ended the Chicago Cubs' 107-year championship drought. I still can't believe that the Cubs actually won that year. Side note, a few months ago, Fox scheduled the Rutgers vs. USC football game right after Game 1 of the World Series. And while an 11 p.m. Eastern start time isn't the best slot to attract Rutgers fans on the East Coast, Fox was taking a big swing, no pun intended, hoping that a Yankees-Dodgers World Series could keep local market fans around for a football game that otherwise wouldn't draw a huge number on a Friday night. Well, that swing ended up making a whole lot of contact and is likely to bring in increased viewership and, more importantly, increased ad revenue for the network. Moving on, let's talk about ticket prices. I know I've spent a lot of time complaining about the insanely high ticket prices over the years, but for an event like the World Series, high-priced tickets are to be expected at this point. But with this year's star-studded matchup between the league's 2 most storied franchises, those prices are about to reach an entirely new level. As of right now, it's going to cost you at least $1,000 just to get into the stadium for the World Series, regardless of whether the game is in New York or LA. In fact, Ticket IQ says the average list price right now is $3,887. That's about the same as a month of rent for a shoebox studio in Manhattan. Having said that though, These insane ticket prices haven't slowed down the market at all, as every game will be sold out, and StubHub says this year's championship is on pace to be the best-selling World Series in the company's history. Finally, let's take a look at the payout potential for the players on the field. You might think ticket prices and ratings don't impact the players themselves, but thanks to MLB's payout system, members of the Yankees and Dodgers stand to make a substantial sum, thanks to the massive amount of tickets being sold. It's a pretty complex formula, so I won't try to explain every detail, but the simplest way to put it out there is that postseason ticket revenue is pooled together, and roughly 55% of that money goes to the players on playoff teams themselves. The distribution among the teams is based on performance, so the further your team makes it in the playoffs, the more money your team is going to get. Internally, the teams then vote on how to distribute the money throughout the roster, with team captains typically voting on how to divvy up the money themselves. It's not just the players and coaches that get money though, it's the entire organization, including clubhouse staff. And the payouts can get pretty large. For example, for their World Series win last year, each player on the Texas Rangers received a little over $500,000, while the team they beat in the series, the Arizona Diamondbacks, handed out around $310,000 to each individual. Now, for someone like Aaron Judge, who made $40 million this year alone, that payout barely even registers. However, both rosters have several key players on minimum deals that are being paid less than $1 million annually. So that means that this type of money can make a huge difference, with a World Series win potentially resulting in a 50% salary increase for those players. No matter what, this World Series is going to be a big deal. It doesn't matter who you're rooting for or even if you like baseball. We're about to get a show for the ages. And with that, all I have to say is, go Yankees.